Okay, today we're going to take a look at and try and understand better the idea of supply. So we talked about this when we started demand. We said that the very basics of economics, once you get past vocabulary terms and basic economic systems, is supply and demand. We said that demand was the amount of an item that the consumer would buy at different prices. Supply then is going to be the opposite of that. It's going to be the amount of an item a producer can make at different prices along the spectrum. And what you get is you get an X. Now I've been really clear with my students that this is not something this is not a graphing class. Okay, I'm not going to get deep into the graphs and the predictions and business models, and if you're into it, that's great. I suggest you take a higher level economics class at the university level. Be a business major. Okay, learn economics in a way I just don't understand. I actually had a kid from UCLA as a student teacher in my class a few years ago, and he was an economics major. And this guy understood economics in a way that I don't, okay, as a high school teacher. But this one graph, though, this supply and demand curve, is the only one I'm going to get into and spend time on. The reason being that the supply and demand curve, the supply and demand graph, creates a place on the a place where you want to price your item. This is the bottom line, right? So if you look at demand and you say, you plot a demand curve based on price and quantity demanded, then you plot a supply curve based on price and quantity supplied, you'll end up with a place where they meet. And that is where you want to price your item. So for my future entrepreneurs, which I hope there are many of in my class, when you get to this level of economics and you're graphing out your demand, you're graphing out your supply, just remember that where the supply and demand curves meet is really the ideal place to price your item. Um, now, let's talk about the law of supply. Similar to the law of demand, we're going to find that the law of supply states that the higher the price, the more a company would produce, and the lower the price, the less a company would produce. Um, let's take a moment and talk about face masks. Okay, some PPE, some COVID related conversations, right? Look, before last year, no, I never saw anyone wearing a mask in public. Okay, now everyone does, right? And that's because the demand for masks has gone up because of the coronavirus. We know this. Okay, so if we were to be making a very rudimentary graph, we would say that the demand has definitely increased because of an outside influence. Okay, because of something going on in society that has created it to the quantity demand to go up. Now, um, if when this very first happened, we had a shortage of masks, and particularly the good masks, right? They're called N95s. These are the ones that doctors use. My wife's a medical worker in a COVID designated nursing home, right? This is what she uses every day. And there weren't enough for the medical workers. If you remember, in New York, they were using plastic bags. They were using surgical masks. They were in cloth on top of double, triple mask, anything they could to try and keep from getting sick. And sadly, right, people were getting sick and dying during that time, medical workers. But in this case, we're going to see that what happened was, because there was an increase in demand, people started now offering more money to companies who make these masks, which then caused the price of the mask to go up, right? So they said, hey, listen, 3M or whatever company makes these kind of masks, we need you to make more. And instead of paying you, I don't know, I'm making up numbers here, 10 cents a mask, we're going to instead pay you now 15. And because there was an increase in price, we're going to see that there was an increase in quantity supplied. The 3M said, yeah, of course I'm going to make more masks for 15 cents a piece because that's more money for my company. So I'm going to stop making other stuff. I think 3M makes paper goods like toilet paper, and they say we're going to pause on toilet paper. Even the toilet paper was probably getting a little bit of an increase in cost also to the producer. We ran out of toilet paper, of course, but I'm going to pause on making other things, and I'm going to make these masks because you're offering me more money per mask. So of course, I'm going to make more masks, right? The same is also true that if the cost offered to a producer goes down, okay, if someone says, I am no longer now, look, we got enough masks, 3M, okay, I'm no longer going to offer you 15 cents a mask. I'm going to go back 10 cents a mask because 15 cents a mask was just temporary when we needed that kind of boost. 3M will lower its quantity produced because, okay, well then I'm going to go back to making as much as I used to, and I'll make some more toilet paper again with my factory available manufacturing capabilities, and I'll use that, and I'm going to make less masks. And then if, say, this is all make believe in the future now, right? Because it seems like we're going to be wearing masks for a bit longer. But most of us are probably wearing cloth masks when we go out, or some variation of. I personally like silk masks myself. They are more protective and they're soft on your skin. It's very luxurious. Okay. But if they then say, look, we have we don't need any more masks. We have a oversupply. Okay, you guys produce too much. Now these masks are sitting in warehouses. I'm going to pay you 8 cents a mask. I'm not even going to give you 10 cents a mask anymore. 3M or whatever producer company we're talking about, they would then decrease the quantity supplied. It's really common sense, right? Like, are you going to make more of an item when you're being paid more for it? Yeah, of course. Are you going to make less of it if the price that they're paying you goes down? Yeah, of course I will. I'll make something else that I can pull a higher profit margin on. So this is your real basic supply curve, right? Where we're just having a conversation about the supply curve. If price goes up, demand quantity will go up. If price goes down, quantity supplied will go down. And then of course, this spot in the middle is called the equilibrium. This is where we're going to price our item. And we're going to find out in this section that supply is something that's for the producer. It's not for the consumer. So for you and I, the average person on the street, supply doesn't matter much. I mean, it matters when it comes to pricing of an item, but it doesn't matter much when it comes to our everyday life, where demand does, because we create demand as people.